I'm Devin Morse, and I'm here talking to Elva Barber and Pastor Craig about the upcoming Stop the Violence Walk. Hi, guys. How are you today?
How you doing?
Doing great.
All right. So what is the purpose of this community walk?
Well, it's to bring about an awareness of a crisis that has gone to the boiling point. And at this particular point, we've come to the reality that we as a community cannot stand by and put this into the hands of anyone else other than ourselves. And at this point, it requires collaboration, it requires passion, and it certainly requires a personal commitment, not just to the march, but to the ongoing movement of saying no more.
Right.
Like Pastor Craig said, enough is enough. We've seen it happen too many times. We went about it in all different forms. This is the first time we came up here and addressed it to the student body because we want the students to be involved in this march, as well as if we can get the teachers out there too.
Right.
We want everybody's involvement in this march. It doesn't matter exactly where you're from or how you're doing it. You know, this is an anti-violence march, but we know we can't stop violence.
Right.
But we can prevent a lot of the stuff that's going on through communication, opening up, awareness, looking at your surroundings and like that. And this would be nothing if we just one group of people do it over here
Right,
and
everyone has to
another
be
group of people do it over here. So this is, like he said, a collaboration
Right.
of youth and old and young getting together and learning from one another for, you know, for this cause.
And how do you think this will prevent some of the violence that's going on in our community?
I think that when the dialogue begins to take place, it allows us to take forth a message or bring a message of violence is not the only way or is not the way of resolving issues.
Right.
I think that as Elder has talked about the ability of the young and the older to be able to communicate, it gives the younger an opportunity to hear of other ways that we can address some of the issues, because we all face conflict. We all face some form of being angry. But if until we begin to learn that there are other ways that we can address it, then we'll be stuck in a mode of only allowing what TV portrays and says that this is the way that you deal with it, other than a 9mm or just, you know, hurting somebody.
Right.
And, you know, we know that you watch a lot of things and you hear a lot of things on TV and you thinking, you know, it looks great and sounds funny as far as a shootout or
Right.
doing that. But in reality, I would say more than 80% of them not even walking around with guns. You know, it's just the stuff that they hear in the lyrics and the music. And
Right,
I'm
yeah,
not
music
and I'm
especially.
not blaming the music and stuff like that. But if you're just expressing yourself, say what it is. It's expressing yourself, and you're doing it in a form of entertainment. See, a lot of these kids are taking on these roles, but they're only doing it in the form of entertainment. They're not really living these lives. So, you know, there goes the stereotype that we don't want. And maybe if you come out and you see it for yourself, you'll know. It's not like you going around ducking. It seems that way, but it's not.
Right.
So these are isolated incidents that are blown out of proportion, but it affects everyone.
Exactly. And who is involved in this organization who is involved in the community walk?
Well, as far as the areas that we are working in, I represent the Greater Norristown Area Ministerium. I represent the the Carver Community Center. But in terms of just the dialogue across the board, it has virtually brought other organizations to the table. Buck Jones, Buddy Epps, Hakeem, they have been working along with other organizations and groups, and it's just been a dialogue amongst other groups throughout the community where people are virtually made aware and put on notice that this is an issue that we as community leaders, we as community residents, we have to be able to come together, be counted, and to make it known that this is where we communicate and we make it known that we're not taking it anymore.
Right.
Enough is enough.
Right.
Yeah, the way we connect is basically, we've done things throughout the years. This happened 3 years ago, this exact walk.
Right.
This week, makes 3 years that we did it before, and it was just the natural order things. It was called again. So we are all, it's a very close-knit community.
Right.
It's a very close-knit community, and to reach out to Pastor Craig is nothing just to pick up the phone. It's not like hard to find people that really want to do things positive in the community, but it's the communication part that we have a problem with.
Right.
As far as the youth. You know, we're right here, we're willing to help. We want to help our youth because the youth is our future. If we don't help our future out, where we're going to end up. We have to start getting you pre-prepped and pre-ready for things that's going on out here in the world that as soon as you get out of, as far as graduating, you don't see it now because you got the net of school and because your education comes first.
Right.
But you're going to have to deal with real life experiences, and we're just not really fond of the mentality of how you're doing things because I wouldn't be here today if I was drug dealing and gunslinging and partying and doing drugs. I wouldn't be here that long, you know, so.
And do you feel like this type of walk should be held every year or twice a year, or not just when an event like this occurs?
Good question. I think that this walk is somewhat of a culmination. I think it sort of brings us to a place where we begin to address issues. It takes us, it sort of propels us and puts us at the bargaining table with our youth, where we begin to hear and where we begin to listen to one another. At some point, it can't just be in the marching, it can't be in just the event. It has to be in the building of relationships, the building of bridges, so that we are able to recognize what it is that's really being said. And I think that that's where the biggest issue is right now, that there's stuff going on that the older generation or people in office or positions of authority are not really able to connect with what are the real issues that's causing people to revert to violence and to see themselves as being locked into a lifestyle or a pattern of violence.
Right.
But I would like to do it as, like you said, I don't want to wait until somebody's gone for you to,
To start this again.
want to go out there and do it. This should be something that we want to instill. Like, it could be done naturally. Like, let's get together, let's talk.
Right.
If you have a problem, call. Let's address it. And we're trying to open up the door and saying we're open for anything that comes to us, but we can't do it if you don't feel comfortable with coming to us. So we're here in the school. We're here addressing this to the student body, and we want to make sure that you feel comfortable and come out. And don't be afraid to come out. There's nothing to fear, because if I can't go to him and talk to him, then what am I saying about my pastor? He's a leader. I'm following his lead. He's not going to steer me wrong. I see him in the community. I see him active. He sees me in the community. So we see the kids. I'm going to get with him. He's going to help me. He got 2, I got 2.
Right.
So we could do this as often as you want to get done. We
Right.
could do it every week if we have able bodies.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And I think that the message is something that's not going to be a one and done.
No.
It has to be the reinforcement and the reiteration of a message that is virtually saying, not only to the community, but to those persons who are not positive parts of the community. I'm talking about the criminal element.
Right.
They need to get the message as well, because
Yes,
I
sir.
think that in the course of us communicating, sometimes people are virtually saying, we've heard that before.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's just go back to what we've done before. Well, we want to make it clear that we can't go back to just allowing the crime element to have a foothold in our community.
Okay. Who can get involved in this movement, and how can people get involved in this movement?
Anyone and everyone, and it's just a matter of just being there Friday on that's November the 20th at 7 o'clock, and that's going to be at Marshall and George is going to be the point in which we're starting. But this is the point that I think is so important. Even if you can't walk, then be at the very end
Be present.
of where we're going to be. It doesn't require you to necessarily have to do the walk. It's just a matter of you being counted and being visible, so that people will know that you are saying to the community at large that we take part and we take ownership and responsibility for what goes on in our community.
Yeah, if you can't march or you can't make it, cut your light on. Cut your light on and support to show your support. And we're going to walk all the way from the west end to the east end. Okay, and we'll have the information of the exact route that we're going. It should be up right now, viral. But just show like support as far as cut your light on.
Yeah.
That as simple as that.
Yeah. But in addition to that, we can ask people to pray.
Yeah, thank you.
Right.
Yeah, pray.
And what is the significance of the Candlelight Vigil at the end of the walk?
Good point. I think that when we begin to talk about the Candlelight Vigil, it always talks about light. It always talks about life. We want to stand in proxy, in representation of those voices that have been snuffed out.
Right.
Their lives, in fact, still mean something to us. Although they are not here, they're not forgotten.
Right.
And so the candle represents the light and the life of those individuals, and certainly the ones who are still grieving and have lived with the loss of those individuals. That light means that we are still going to move forward, and we're still going to make sure that the next generation has a way of seeing their way into a future that's much better than what it is right now.
Right.
It should represent life.
Life.
Life that was lost and life that's still here.
Right.
And the fire of it is still burning in our hearts.
Yeah, exactly. And Elle, I know you explained to me about the open forum that involves Robert Kelly Collins. Do you just want to speak a little bit about that?
It's an open forum that's going to be held by Robert Kelly Collins at the Indulge on Markley Street. What that's going to be is something that for the people that come to the march, if they still have some feeling of expression and stuff like that, they'll be able to go to Indulge on Markley Street, and we'll be carrying it on over there after the march.
Okay. And I know you spoke a lot about the youth. Is there anything you want to say about the Norristown Rebels?
The Norristown Rebels are going to be the youth sanction of the march that was going to actually have a march on their own without us.
Right.
And they actually reached out to Buck Jones. Everybody knows him as Buck the Cowboy.
Okay.
They reached out to Buck, and Buck told them, well, we were planning on the same thing. So it already brought itself together in a whole. So by him reaching out to him, they're now part of the march. So you could look for the youth involvement, but we're still looking for more youth.
Right.
I want the attendance to be high, spread the word, post, share, tag. It's tomorrow. And it's something that I'm very, very excited about, because I was sitting where you were sitting at. And I was asking the questions.
Right.
But I got the answers, and now I'm here to give more answers out here for all the things that I've learned in life. And I'm very excited that if you could just rally these students. We really need their involvement in what we do in our community.
And Pastor Carrick, I know you spoke briefly about when the walk will be held and where it's going to be held. Do you just speak again about?
Yes, it's going to take place on Friday, November the 20th, and it will begin at Marshall and George, and we're going to actually go down to Spruce and Willow. That will be the final point that we're actually going to conclude the march.
That's the last stop.
That's absolutely right. And I just think that when you talk about the youth and how all of this really comes together, it affects the youth more than us, because in terms of the threat of violence, many of the youth feel as though that there's no other option other than violence. And I think that this is our opportunity to provide options and to provide opportunities for our young people to be able to see that there are voices and that there are ears and that there are hands and that there are people who are willing to get involved, so that incidents where people are being bullied, incidents where people are being abused, that they don't have to suffer in silence.
Right. This is a wonderful thing I feel that our community should appreciate. Is there anything else you guys like to add?
No.
Rally. Get out there. Tell somebody, I want to see you all tomorrow, or I'm coming back to the school and doing this all over again.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you.
I'm Devin Morrison. I just spoke to Pastor Craig and Elle the Barber about the Stop the Violence Walk that's coming up on Friday, November 20th. Now back to the Eagle's Eye.